One type of camera I have not used for a very long time are these small digital point and shoots, or Digicams as they're also known as. I don't think actually since I got my DSLR I have not used one of these, and it's a very long time ago. So why the sudden interest? Well, I guess I need to explain myself a little bit here. Usually when I'm thrifting for cameras, I'm looking for the film cameras, not really old digital ones. Although there is one camera that caught my interest some time ago, a very early digital camera. Now, that one is tied to my interest in vintage computers, so maybe you can guess which one I'm referring to. They are quite rare though, so I started asking myself, what if I would try out one of these more common cameras, more common point and shoots? And it could be quite interesting to see how it is to use one today. And you can find them for very cheap prices, like 50 cents to, well, 5 euros is common. If they're more expensive, usually the price is lower because when it's buying them and they're put on sale for like 50 to 70%. The difficult thing about thrifting for Digicams is that they quite often do not come with the memory cards or batteries or chargers. I mean, usually one of these are missing, sometimes all three, so that way you cannot really test them before you buy them, so it's a bit of a risk whether they will work or not. So now these cards are actually quite rare, like the XD cards for the Olympus cameras, or even the right type of Sony memory sticks are not that easy to find, so yeah. And also about the batteries, even if there are batteries, they might not even work anymore. So yeah, then you have to find some third-party batteries, and it's not always that easy to find a reliable one. Now there are some Era's camera, like these two, that use both AA batteries and SD cards. So these are quite good to look for. I mean, you won't have so much trouble getting it to work. Now, that being said, let's finally go to the camera I'm trying to review here. This Pentax Optio 60, which was the first camera which used both AA batteries and SD cards that I found. And well, it's a quite basic camera, what more can I say? Very standard for the time. You have the zoom lens and the screen on the back and very small viewfinder, which is kind of useless almost. There's a mode dial, but I really only use this in the automatic mode because the controls for the manual exposure is not so good. I mean, yeah, I use this as a snapshot camera basically. Now, and also I managed to break this lens cover when cleaning it because this lens was very dirty. So it doesn't open and close properly always, so you have to check. Yeah, so be careful with the fine part of these cameras because they can break easily. It came with a 128 megabyte card, so I was like, okay, that's a bit small. I have larger ones, so I tried to put in a 8 gigabyte card, but it didn't like it. And the reason for that is because the camera uses a FAT16 file system, and the maximum size for that file system is 2 gigabytes. I tried with a 2 gigabyte card and that one worked without problem, so yeah. When it comes to the batteries, this camera eats through them quite quickly, so preferably use rechargeable ones when using old Digicams because yeah, otherwise it can become quite expensive actually. The sensor on this camera is a 6 megapixel CCD, and yeah, what can I say is the amount of megapixels is not so important for me when it comes to these cameras. I mean, under 6 or about that level is quite good. I mean, they should not have too many megapixels because then the pictures might be too good. There's also a video function on this camera. I could actually turn it on and see. Let's find it. There we go. I pressed the wrong button. Press the on-off button. It looks like a shutter button. What can I do? So yeah, now it's on video mode. I have no idea how long it can record, but I guess we'll see. Usually it's like 5 seconds or something you can record with this camera, so yeah. Maybe I can focus with my main camera here and you can see the screen. No, there the screen is. It is refocus, I hope so. When it comes to the photos, well, they're quite decent. I mean, if I posted these on Instagram, I don't know if people would actually notice that they were made with this old camera. 6 megapixels actually contain quite a lot of data, so yeah, I mean, in that regard, it's not bad at all. And in daylight, this camera produced quite nice photos. I mean, it's nothing to complain about if your expectations are realistic. All the photos are the JPEGs straight out of the camera. I mean, I wouldn't really use this camera to make photos I want to edit later. It's a point and shoot, so I've just taken some random pictures when I've seen something interesting, or when I've been photographing something else, I've taken the same photo with some other camera also. But I haven't done any like in-depth pixel peeping because really, I mean, what's the point of that? In low light, the camera doesn't perform very well. I mean, it's the weakness of the CCD sensor. Of course, it also has a very small sensor, so it's not very suitable for that. And the zoom lens doesn't have that good light transmission anyway, so yeah, it's best used in daylight. Of course, it has a flash also, and well, for using selfies, it's quite fun. although I have no idea how to make selfies apparently. It tries to use long exposure if you don't have the flash on, and actually some of these results can be quite artistic and interesting, so I probably wouldn't shoot this way normally, so yeah, it does give a different perspective. If you look closer at the photos, you can clearly see that they have a very distinct digital look, or early digital look, let's say. For example, some JPEG artifacts, and you can see that in some photos the sharpening has been applied quite rough, so yeah, you can see the sharpening quite clearly there. But it does add to the aesthetic of the style, of course. Overall though, nothing terrible, and also the colors are quite decent. I mean, they're not bad at all, at least for what the camera is. Using the camera, well, that's a bit, of course, different experience from modern cameras. One thing I don't really like is that it's a bit difficult to compose your photos. This viewfinder is more or less useless. It's very small and it's also a little bit fogged up on the inside. So you have to use the screen more or less to compose photos with this camera, and it doesn't always show very accurately the exposure and the color that you will get. So sometimes I noticed that they looked very underexposed in the screen, but then they turned out fine when I took the picture, so I don't know. It's a bit strange. I don't know if there is a histogram on this camera. Maybe there is. I haven't actually dug that deep into the menus of it. That could of course be some help when composing the photos. Also, the camera had a bit strange choices of white balance, but so I don't know, it's a bit unreliable in that term. You don't really know what you will get, but maybe that's a good thing. So, was it worth experimenting with a Digicam, or was it a complete waste of time? Well, actually I had a lot of fun with it, and it does open up a new realm of obsolete technology to explore, so yeah, it has a lot of potential. So the old cameras can definitely help make photography a bit less boring, or try something new, something challenging. Because it can be quite a challenge sometimes to get a good photo from these cameras. But then again, maybe that's not the goal. I mean, just go with the flow and see what you get. Also, Digicams do give a good reason to play with vintage computers. I mean, half of the fun is to put together a Windows 98 or XP computer and use an ancient version of Photoshop to edit the photos. So, what do you think about Digicams? Pointless nostalgia, or maybe e-waste? Or do you find them interesting? Do you photograph with these yourself, maybe? Whatever your opinion, you can write in your comments. As long as it passes the YouTube auto filters, of course. Well, anyway, thanks for watching and see you in another video. Bye!